when it comes to the rest of the Eastern Conference, like I'm going to kind of swing it back to you because we talk about Orlando, like we talk about the Indiana Pacers, a team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They're also pretty banged up right now. It seems like that calf injury is going to be kind of a thorn in their side with Miles Turner, and they're looking for front court help. So, is there another team in the East right now that you would comfortably call a contender outside of just Boston and Cleveland?
Before we said that, two other names that we didn't mention being out for Cleveland. You said Max Strus, and I didn't think Karis LeVert as well. So the other two guys the other guys who tend to save their best for the Celtics as well. So that might have made a little bit of a difference. Kristaps Porzingis difference, but still. To your question though, it's funny because the way I wrote it out, I had like similar to you. Cavs, Celtics far away ahead of everybody else. Cavs kind of in a class of their own. I wrote Orlando and New York together as teams who I could see them having an Indiana-like run like they did last year. And that feels kind of disrespectful to say about New York, but they made so many changes. It's hard to kind of tell where that team is or what they're going to be in 20 or 30 games. But I think that as it projects right now, those are teams who, if they get the right matchups, the right bracket set up, and the right things working in their favor, they can take advantage and make a run. So I think that's where Orlando and New York is right now. I think I go down a tier, and I even lumped in, despite their struggles, Philly and Milwaukee, because in this Eastern Conference right now, there are only 4 teams that are above 500 as we record this. You're really only 1 4 or 5 game win streak away from putting yourself back in the mix right now. And Philly, Milwaukee, Miami, Indiana, those are the teams who I kind of look at as, okay, we've been here before. Philly and Milwaukee to a different extent because they have MVPs on their team. But, don't take us lightly. Will be a headache. Will be difficult to eliminate. I think that, we talked about the panic meter and can they figure it out? That confidence is still not necessarily there, with Philadelphia and Milwaukee. But I do think that they have so much talent on their teams that they start clicking, they go on a win streak. You don't really want to see them play in the playoffs. And that will be a thorn in the side of one of those upper tier teams that they have to see them in an early round. So that's kind of the way I look at it with those teams right now. That could definitely change because moves can always be made and things can kind of always happen. I know with Indiana, one thing I was going to mention, people kind of pointing out Tyrese Halliburton's home road splits, and his road splits are just really worse than his home splits. And everybody thinks this is like telltale sign, back injury, he's not sleeping in his own bed, he's traveling and his performance is tanking. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on, especially in addition to the Miles Turner situation and what they've got going. I think they just signed Moses Brown to kind of try and bolster up that front court. So interesting to see how that goes right now. So many injuries, so many factors impacting those teams, but Celtics, Cavs, Magic, Knicks, Philly, Milwaukee, Miami, Indiana.
Yeah, the other team that I want to throw in the mix that I'm super intrigued by once they get fully healthy is the Atlanta Hawks, because we talked about Dyson Daniels on the show last week and like how incredible he's been defensively. And Trae Young is going to do what Trae Young does, which is pretty much go out and give you like 25 and 10 every single night. Obviously lacking a little bit on the defensive end, but like what he brings offensively is so dangerous. And like this is a team that like just got Bogdanovich back in the lineup. DeAndre Hunter has been in and out of lineup, injury management. Jalen Johnson is someone who he's been playing incredible basketball. One of the favorites to win Most Improved Player. They're still working with that front court rotation of Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu, who as a 1-2 punch that works really well. So like when that team gets
Larry Nance
healthy,
also.
Yeah, Larry Nance as well. Yeah, Larry Nance getting some run as well. So, that's a team to me that, when they get fully healthy, am I going to sit here and call them a contender? No. But, could they win a playoff series in the Eastern Conference? Yeah, if they're fully healthy, I don't see why not. So, it's there are a lot of teams like that in the East where it's all right, are you a contender? Probably not. Could you win a playoff series and knock off a team like Philly, knock off a team like Milwaukee if you catch them sleeping? Absolutely. I don't see why not. But that's where, a team like Orlando, when Paolo comes back, I'm really, really curious to see how good they look, because they had one of the best defenses in the league before his injury, and they've maintained that defensive level. Their offense fell off a cliff for a little bit, like I said, but then Franz Wagner stepped up offensively. Jalen Suggs has stepped up offensively. And obviously that's only going to take more pressure off of their back once Paolo does come back, because we already saw what he was doing to start the year. So, they're a team that I think that has the potential to really solidify themselves. I know you said you already kind of have them in that tier with, Cleveland and or maybe not with Cleveland, but like with New York. Like they're a team that I think could really make that leap forward into that top tier in the Eastern Conference as long as Paulo comes back and he's the player that he was before he got injured.
Yeah, Paolo Banchero, latest update on him said he hopes to be back a little before Christmas. So hopefully we get him back on the floor. He was playing at a really high level before he went down. Also saw a stat. I don't think the Magic have lost at home since the beginning of April. So they got a little bit of a home court advantage. They're hitting the button. They're playing the song down in Orlando. So they're having a fun time. You look at the rest of the standings too. Don't want to look over some teams right now. If the playoffs were to start today, the play-in tournament would be Detroit, Indiana, Brooklyn, Chicago. That's going to change a lot as the season goes on. But definitely want to give some love to those teams like the Pistons are playing. They're just a better basketball team this year. It makes more sense. Got a chance to see them play. In Toronto last week, actually, Cade Cunningham putting up big numbers. And shout out to you, Ron Holland, a guy you were high on last year, flying around. Him and Wendell Moore Jr., two guys. They just have athletes on their team, and they're a fun team, and that's just good for them because they had a lot of dark years. They're really on their way to matching last year's win total already.